The village of Obodo was known for its peacefulness, tucked between lush green forests and flowing rivers. Life there was simple, but it held a beauty that the villagers treasured. Every year, the village gathered for the Ijele Masquerade Festival, a celebration that honored the spirit of the ancestors. The Ijele was the largest and the most powerful masquerade, towering over all others. Its costume, made of colorful clothes and beads, was said to be a bridge between the living and the spirit world. However, for many years, the Ijele festival had not been seen. The sacred Ijele mask, the most important part of the celebration, had been missing for generations. It was said to have vanished one fateful night long ago, taken by the spirits themselves, and no one had been able to find it since. Without the mask, the true power of the Ijele was lost, and the festival, though still grand, felt incomplete. Chima, a young man of about 20 years, often heard the stories of the Ijele mask from the elders. He lived with his father, Eze, a humble fisherman, and his mother, Nneka, who sold goods in the village market. Life was hard for Chima's family, but they made the best of what they had. While the father was content with his work on the river, Chima often felt restless. "I cannot spend my whole life as a fisherman," he would think to himself, watching his father untangle nets by the riverbank. "There has to be more to life than this." Chima wanted something different. He dreamt of wealth, respect, and a name that would be remembered long after he was gone. But in a small village like Obodo, opportunities were rare. He often found himself wandering the forest, searching for meaning, hoping for a sign that his life could be more than it was. One afternoon, as the sun hung low in the sky, casting low shadows over the trees, Chima decided to take a different path through the forest. He walked deeper than he had ever gone before, letting his thoughts drift as his feet carried him forward. The air was cool, the sounds of birds and insects filled the space around him. As he walked, Chima noticed something unusual. Up ahead, half hidden by thick vines, stood an old shrine. The shrine was small and covered in moss. Forgotten by time and nature, Chima hesitated for a moment. The elders often warned the young men of the village to stay away from old shrines. They were said to be places where spirits lingered, watching over the land, but Chima was curious. Cautiously, he approached the shrine. The ground was soft beneath his feet, and as he stepped closer, he felt something hard beneath his foot. Surprised, Chima looked down and saw an object buried in the dirt. He knelt down and brushed the soil away with his hands. What he uncovered was astonishing. It was an old mask made of dark wood and decorated with strange carvings. Though it was worn and withered, there was something undeniably powerful about it. The mask's eyes were hollow, staring back at Chima as if they could see right into his soul. His heart raced with excitement. "What is this?" he whispered to himself, turning the mask over in his hands. "Could this be the Ijele mask?" Chima knew the stories well. The Ijele mask had been lost for generations, hidden away by the spirits, also the villagers believed. But now, here it was, lying in a dirt, forgotten. His mind swelled with possibilities. If this was truly the Ijele mask, then he had found something of great importance, something that could change his life forever. Without thinking much about the consequences, Chima wrapped the mask in his clothes and hurried back home. His heart pounded in his chest the entire way, a mixture of fear and excitement fueling his steps. That night, after his family had gone to bed, Chima sat in his small room, staring at the mask. The moonlight streamed through the night, casting eerie shadows across the walls. The mask lay on the floor in front of him, its hollow eyes reflecting the faint light. A voice inside him urged him to try it on. "It's just a mask," Chima thought. What harm could it do? Slowly, he lifted the mask to his face. The moment the mask touched his skin, Chima felt a strange sensation. It was as if a current of energy had passed through him, awakening something deep inside. His heart began to race and his senses sharpened. The sounds of the night outside became clearer. The rustling of the leaves, the distant call of an owl, the soft breeze that whispered through the trees. It was as if the mask had connected him to the world in a way he had never experienced before. But that wasn't all. When Chima closed his eyes, he saw something vicious, faint and flickering, like images from another world. He saw figures moving in the darkness, shadowing beings with eyes that glowed like embers. They moved silently, watching him, whispering words he could quite understand. The vision came and went quickly, leaving Chima breathless and confused. What is this? He thought, pulling the mask from his face. For a moment, he sat in silence, his heart still racing. He wasn't sure what had just happened. But one thing was clear, this mask was no ordinary object. It held a power that was beyond his understanding. Despite his confusion, Chima couldn't help but feel excited. The mask had given him a taste of something greater, something beyond the ordinary. He could feel it in his bones that this mask would change his life. He could be someone important, someone powerful. He had to explore this power further. The next morning, Chima woke early, the mask still on his mind. He decided to keep it hidden for now, tucked away in his room, where no one could find it. As he went about his day, helping his father with the fishing nets, he couldn't shake the feeling that the mask had unlocked something inside of him. Over the next few days, Chima began to notice changes. At first, they were small. He seemed to have more energy. His movements were quicker and his reflexes sharper. But soon, other things began to happen. He could sense things before they could happen, almost as if he would predict the future. When someone in the village was about to speak, he could sometimes guess what they were going to say. It was subtle, but the more it happened, the more Chima became aware of it. People in the village began to notice too. Chima seemed different, more confident, more aware. He walked with a new sense of purpose, and when he spoke, others listened. Even the elders who usually dismissed young men like Chima started to take note of him. One evening, as Chima sat outside his family house, watching the sunset, his father joined him. "You seem different lately," Eze said, his voice low. "Is everything alright?" Chima hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to respond. He couldn't tell his father about the mask, not yet. "I'm fine, Papa," he said with a small smile. "I'm just thinking a lot these days." Eze nodded, his withered face thoughtful. "It's good to think, Chima, but be careful. The world is full of things we don't understand." Chima's smile faded as his father's words sank in. He knew what his father meant. The mask was a mystery, and mysteries were often dangerous. That night, Chima had another dream. This time, the figures in his visions were clearer. They were spirits, ancient beings with faces that shifted and changed like smoke. They surrounded him, their eyes glowing with a strange light. "Chima," they whispered, their voice echoing in his mind. "The mask is not yours to keep. Return it or face the consequences." Chima woke up with a start, his heart pounding. The room was dark, but the mask lay on the floor, glowing faintly in the moonlight.